the city of Maricopa came together for the largest community cleanup campaign in the city's history. Individuals from all walks of life rallied and walked throughout their community, picking up litter in a vow to keep Maricopa beautiful. We received dozens of emails from groups showcasing their efforts to keep Maricopa beautiful by collecting multiple bags of litter during the 2-hour-only event. To learn more about the next community cleanup event, please visit keepmaricopabeautiful.com.
Check, check, check.
We'll go ahead and call this meeting of November 8th, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Invocation will be by Commissioner Irving and Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Yocum. Please stand.
I'm going to add a little something different to our invocation. I'm a member of the Maricopa Rotary, and one of the things we say before each meeting, of all the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it beneficial to all? So I think, to me, that's always a guiding light as we go into deliberations, that we sort of use, I know I personally do, use that four-way test. So, bow our heads. Father, just be with us to remember those thoughts as we go about and deliberate the city's business. Open and hear and listen and do the work that benefits all the city. We ask this in your name. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaFall? Commissioner Yocum?
I'm here, but it's extremely distorted.
Okay. Commissioner Yocum?
Here.
Vice Chair Sharp? Chair Huggins?
Here.
Commissioner Irving? Commissioner Frank? Commissioner Robertson?
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All righty, next item on the agenda, call to the public. If you would like to speak, go ahead and come on up to the podium. Please remember, if there are any items on the agenda that you want to speak to, we can do it at that point. Seeing none, we'll move on. All right. Meeting minutes. Commission will approve minutes from October 25th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Second.
Awesome. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right. Word and upward. 5.1 DRP 21-11, a request by Maricopa HILLP, an affiliate of Real Estate Equities, requesting review and approval of site plan, landscape, photometric, and elevation plans for a proposed 312-unit multi-story multifamily development on approximately 13 acres located east of North Porter Road at the intersection of North Porter Road and West Applegate Road, which is north of the Maricopa-Casa Grande Highway in the city of Maricopa. Discussion and action.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Here today to present DRP 21-11. This is for a multifamily development, approximately 312 units, multi-story, multifamily development. We're in part one of the entitlement process. We are in part two of the entitlement process. Part one has already been approved. The Commission and Chair have saw the zoning 21-03 rezoning case previously and was approved recently on November 2nd by City Council. So part two of the process is the development review permit, which is where we are today. Part three will be the, if approved, construction drawings, building permits, engineering permits, etc. Just a little bit quickly about the site. It's about a 13-acre site. It's currently vacant. The general plan amendment and rezoning that was approved on November 2nd by City Council changed the general plan land use to mixed use to support the higher density of this proposal. And existing zoning was also changed, so the existing zoning now is general mixed use. There is no overlay zoning. The height of the building is approximately 3 stories, 312 units, 735 required parking stalls. However, the applicant is choosing to used our sustainable development section of our code to meet the parking reduction for the development based on meeting the several of the sustainable development incentive enhancement items. As you said earlier, the site location is just east of Maricopa Casa Grande Highway and Porter Road. As required per the zoning code, the site was posted. Notification letters were sent out within 600 feet, and at this time we have not received public comments related to this proposal. Staff finds the submittal items for DRP 21-11 be substantially compliant with zoning code section 18.155.070 and 18.150.060. So staff does recommend approval of DRP 21-11, subject to the conditions set in the staff report. I'm going to turn it over to the applicant to inform and present the proposal to Commissioner Chair Huggins a little bit more detail. Thank you.
Thanks, Byron. Madam Chair, members of the Commission, my name's Eric Amdahl. I'm the developer of the Copa Flats development to be located at 17485 North Porter Road. And I'm going to share with you some information about first our company and our interest in this site, and then secondly, some of the specifics of our development plan.
Can you speak closer into the mic, please?
Is this better?
Yeah, a lot better.
Okay, thanks. So just a little bit of background about our company. Real Estate Equities is a 50-year-old national multifamily developer and property management company. We're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota, but are focused on developing both new construction, attainable, affordable housing, and senior affordable housing. And one specific unique aspect of our property development program is that we're long-term owners, and we're invested in the success of our communities we develop as we are the success of the community around us. We have a minimum 15-year investment horizon in these properties, which will also property manage for that duration. And more often than not, we're reinvesting at that 15th year to provide capital improvements to those assets. So we're really truly invested in seeing a good design and a successful project for the long term. With us today and as part of our development team is the Real Estate Equities team represented by myself. Cost Wilson Architects is the architect of record. We've also have representatives from Gamage and Burnham on the land use side, and also a civil engineer, Dave West from Terrascape. And I'll also be presenting some findings from the traffic engineering analysis as well. In terms of the scope of the discussion and kind of agenda here, we intend to discuss the site plan design and layout, of which I think you've received a package with a good amount of information. We'll also go over building elevations and renderings. As Byron had mentioned, the general mixed-use zoning was approved by City Council last Tuesday, and our project is 312 residential units that are made up in 13 three-story residential buildings, each with 24 units. And then they're supported by 3 common area amenity buildings and a leasing office building that are centrally located in the site. As Byron also had mentioned, our parking requirements are met through the sustainable incentive in the zoning code. We're providing 543 parking stalls, of which 312 will be covered. Just some reasons why we feel this is a good and attractive site for housing is a number of reasons, but we think that the proximity to the surrounding retail, grocery, restaurants, and employment is all a positive factor. It's also well located in that it's adjacent to stops on the Maricopa Express Transit, and also has good walkability and ability to add connectivity to future commercial developments adjacent to the north and eventually to the south. And that these rooftops and demographics from this development will also support and hopefully catalyze additional commercial and retail development on the adjacent sites, as well as the build-out of Wells, Stonegate, and future developments in this area. I'll probably bring Petro up to help walk through some of the renderings, but as you can see on the screen, a landscape plan of this development's attached. The 13 three-story buildings surround the perimeter of the site with parking and covered parking in the middle, as well as the clubhouse and amenity area kind of located around the pool near the full access off of Porter Road. A right-in, right-out would be provided at the south end of the property. Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Petro Megas with Cost Wilson Architects. So the image you're looking at are a variety of different materials that we wanted to implement into the site. So we have stone panels, various colors of stucco, metal panel, and also aluminum balconies, as well as accent colors throughout the site. Is it which button is that? This one? There you go. As you can see, we actually looked at 3 different color palettes throughout, so it isn't one color palette that's replicated 13 times. It's actually numerous color palettes throughout the site. Again, to create interest, movement throughout the site, and just to create a sense of community. This is the clubhouse building. Once again, creating various building heights, massings, various material changes, being a Corten steel panel, stucco, also accents of aluminum windows, and to create, again, some sense of community of different materials coming together. Once again, final material palette here, and I believe you have the actual physical samples as well that were provided. Stone masonry, we have corrugated metal, and various colors of both accents and the body of the building being in stucco as well.
And then just to highlight some of the interior finishes and amenities that'll be provided, we strive to have Energy Star appliances, LED lighting throughout, stainless steel and solid surface countertops, solid wood cabinets, so it'll have a very nice look and feel. In addition, the club room and fitness center will be fully furnished and available for resident use, and then we'll have a pool and picnic area and a few grilling areas surrounded the multifamily buildings at the site as well, and then also a dog park amenity for our residents. And then just to highlight some of the walkability and pedestrian connectivity matters at this development, we have intentionally created connections to future commercial development that will occur to the north. We've also provided a gate at the south for future commercial if the state land is ultimately sold and developed, so there can be connectivity for pedestrians there. Bike racks are provided at each residential building and clubhouse. We're also focused on creating an inviting look at the Porter Road facing side of the site with view fencing and sidewalk improvements there, and then the improvements to create pedestrian connectivity across Porter Road where the signal is to ensure that our residents can access the walkable amenities across Porter. And then just to summarize the traffic impact analysis, the average daily trips that would be reported from this development is anticipated to be around 2,200, just shy of 2,300, with peak AM trips of 144 and PM of 175. Just for context, a shopping center with retail and restaurants that's fully activated on this type of acreage would generate, on average, 2 times the daily trips in the peak hours as what this would. And so that said, our traffic engineer EPS studied this intersection as well as the intersection to the north at Bolin and the light at the Casa Grande Maricopa Highway, and it determined that each will operate and are currently operating at an acceptable level of service after factoring in this development and factoring in growth rates between now and 2023 when this development would be fully constructed. And And as mentioned, we'll be sure to include as part of the construction improvements striped crosswalks, push button and pedestrian indications, and to build out the signal light at Porter, which doesn't currently exist for the ingress and egress at this site. And so with that, happy to address any questions.
Okay, let's go ahead and start out on the internet. Commissioner LaFalle, you there?
I'm here.
Questions, comments, or concerns?
I do have just a clarification question, please. For the crosswalks for the pedestrians, is that going to be located on Porter where the existing crosswalk, or excuse me, the existing signal is?
Yes, that is correct. We'll be building out the infrastructure at that existing signal, providing painted crosswalks at the connection on Porter Road. And then I believe there's also sidewalk that will be constructed on the north side of our site and providing connection to the future development of commercial to the north.
Okay, and then my hopefully last question is on the parking where it was indicated that the parking, even though the parking spaces are reduced, there will still be adequate enough parking to where that won't roll over into the streets. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start over here, Commissioner Yocum.
I'm also concerned about the parking. In the narrative report, it's indicated that you're anticipating that many households will have only a single car, and I really question that conclusion. And also, it states in no case will any household have more than 2 cars. Now, how do you propose to control or police that?
So that is stated in the narrative. However, it is staff's determination through our existing code, the table 18.124.040 for the sustainable development features in our code, that the applicant has demonstrated that they have met the minimum of 3 of the items, but actually have gone much further than that. They've actually met almost, I think, 10 of the items. So to talk about whether or not, how they're going to control people's parking, the code is written in a way where they can get up to 20% parking reduction if they meet these sustainable features, which they have demonstrated and they have met. So with the way the code is constructed, they have that 20% leeway, which is what they've demonstrated and what we've recommended that they should be granted.
Well, you're saying 20% off of the 740.
That's correct.
Okay, where does that bring us? Closer to 30%.
Okay.
So that's what I'm concerned about. I know if I were going to be looking for a place to stay and I knew that there were only 545 spaces, and considering all of the other criteria involved here, I don't know if I'd want to live there. Because I really think that I would not have a parking space if I got home about midnight every night. I'd be struggling to find a parking space, and that means I'd be parking somewhere off the premises probably, or maybe on one of the lawns.
Okay.
I think that's the situation that needs more discussion.
Okay. I'll let the applicant speak to that.
So just in terms of operationally, to address the first question of how will this be enforced at the site in terms of limiting the number of cars that a household can have, our standard lease agreements would provide up to a maximum of 2 parking permits that would be issued to a household as part of their lease. And so that said, to get access into the site through the RFID scanning mechanism to open the gate and to get a parking space, you would have to have a permit, and then we would just be issuing those based on a maximum of 2 cars. And then to just kind of generally address overall concerns about is this parking sufficient for this type of development, we see that answer as yes. We've done several reviews of internal property comparables that have similar size of unit counts, similar types of construction in a location that's relatively comparable in terms of how transit connected it is. And we've reviewed kind of all of these facts and findings and have determined that we actually feel the ratio provided is, despite it being lower than, say, the code requirement at present, sufficient to maybe even providing 40, 50 stalls more than what we actually expect demand to be. And I understand that this seems to be contradictory, but I think it's important to bear in mind that this is an affordable housing development in which all residents will be income qualified. And so drawing a parallel and an analogy that maybe that might not work for everyone in this room based on the number of cars in their household, it works fairly well for the residents that we would be working with that would be qualifying from an income standpoint in order to live at Copa Flats.
What type of admittance or coding device are the cars going to have?
So effectively, you'd have a sticker that would go on your windshield, and that would have a number associated to that permit. And then as you approach the gate to get into the site, there's a reading and scanning device that would pick up that sticker and then open the gate, and then you would have a spot in the parking lot.
Okay, well, I know from personal experience, I know people who would keep those stickers somehow. People are very inventive when it comes to circumventing the rules, and they would put the sticker on a piece of cardboard or whatever and have it on their dashboard, and they could just pass that around.
Yeah, we have dealt with kind of every possible issue you can within property management in our experience, and there's ways that it's very easy to turn off those stickers, and each one is registered to a specific unit. So if it's not displayed on the dash at a car that's parked in the lot, it can't be displayed in two locations. So it's something that technology has given us a lot of opportunity to.
Finally, what about visitors? People who are coming to visit, driving their cars. How do you handle that? How's that situation going to be handled? And how are you going to compensate for that additional number?
Sure. I mean, each of the gates would have a call box that a resident's guest could dial to reach them, and then I believe typically they're set up to ring to a mobile phone where you can scan them in if they're coming to visit. And again, in our review of the parking demand for this property, we feel even in accounting for the number of spots we expect to be needed for our residents, there's even still 20% of the spaces that can be dedicated to guests, and we still feel that meets what we expect for demand.
Well, I still have reservations about the parking situation, but I'll pass on to the next commissioner.
And since we're talking about parking, I'm just going to continue to go there if you guys don't mind. Yeah, I usually do go last, but I don't know if
I'm going to go on the same thing.
Oh, then go ahead. I'll go last on that. Sure, I don't get my questions answered.
I'm using your numbers. You said you want to reduce from 740 to 545, which is above the 20%. We won't even go there. You said that with the 312, you're averaging 2 cars per unit. That's 624. That puts you 79 spots short of what you just said. I really question, and I think it's an issue of concern, that people look at affordable housing. It's not Section 8 housing. And we have a number of people, teachers, professionals, who would qualify for that. And trust me, the average you have, I don't think will work. So you have not come close to convincing me where you're going to put those extra 79 cars. The other issue is we have an agreement about meeting conditions, which none of them are relevant to parking. I'm glad you're meeting them, but they've got nothing to, one doesn't have anything to do with the other. So I really have a problem unless you show us why you're not going to set up a condition that's going to create more traffic that's already tough in that area, because you haven't convinced me what you're going to do with those 79 cars. The second question has to do more general, is traffic. We approved another development south of that area. We've approved development along Bowen. We've approved development at the other end. We're being asked to approve development in Submittal Ranches. We need to look at the overall effect of how many we're adding in this area. Your development, what you lay out, is good. I think the issue is, I am concerned that unless we look at the whole total package of what we've addressed in the last few sessions, we really need to be proactive with traffic. But you know, you haven't come close to convincing me about the parking until you tell me what you're going to do with those 79 cars.
Hi, good evening. I'm Susan Demmett with Gamage and Burnham on behalf of Real Estate Equities. I wanted to address the parking. It seems to be sort of a common question. And so I'll make two comments. One is from a practical standpoint. Real Estate Equities and other affordable multifamily developers that I work with have a lot of experience in the needs of their customer client base, their residents. And you know, they cannot afford to underpark these communities. So I will tell you that from a site planning and design standpoint, it is very intentional that they ensure that they have sufficient parking for both their residents and the guests. And I think, you know, to the point that you made about there are always people that will try to game the system and try to, you know, get more than they can. For residents that live in this community, I mean, they are given an opportunity to live in what is effectively, you know, a brand new sort of market rate quality community at a fixed rent. And there are a lot of rules and regulations that come with that. So the residents that live in these communities are very invested in wanting to make sure that they can stay there. And so, you know, the rules are important, and those are things that if you do have a resident that is trying to, you know, disregard the rules, you know, they have the, you know, they may lose their opportunity to continue to live there. But specifically with regard to the parking, I mean, tonight we're here looking at the site plan, the landscaping, the elevations related to this community. You know, earlier this year, your city council approved the sustainability provisions that are now in your zoning ordinance. And effectively, those provisions in the ordinance state that if you meet those criteria, those sustainability criteria, you are allowed to have that 20% reduction in parking. And so it's I mean, it is a code provision at this point. It is somewhat of a non-discretionary item. And so that's what Real Estate Equities has done, is taken advantage of that sustainability provision that was a policy decision that your council members made that said, you know, if you do all of these other things that we want to encourage in developments, and they're required to do 3, they've done 10 of them, you know, you are allowed to have that parking reduction as one of the bonuses or benefits. And so that's, you know, that's what they've done here. That being said, you know, they're very comfortable that the parking ratios provided are going to be satisfactory for their residents.
Well, I guess if what you're saying it's a fait accompli, then why are you requesting we give you the waiver?
We are not requesting a waiver from you tonight. We are requesting just the site plan, landscape plan, elevation approval, just the development review permit package.
Okay, so then we can deny the request for waiver because you said you're not asking for one. Am I correct? That's what you just said.
So the code gives them the 20% if it's an admin decision. It's not a P&Z decision. The commissioners don't have the authority to grant or deny the parking reduction. Administratively, as a staff, we have the authority for that 20% reduction based on our determination.
Is over 20% based upon the 745?
That's true. That's
Yes.
true. That's correct. So
how can you
So anything above and beyond that 20%, yes, you are correct.
the-
You
And that's
would have
why
the
I'm
authority.
saying it.
Yes.
The numbers are, if you take 740 times 20%, it's
That's been
148.
established, yes.
Okay, from the 740 leaves 592.
That's correct. So we're about 40, what is it, 45 spaces that we're talking about difference right now? Is that 45?
I agree. All I'm saying is, the comment she made was that we have no choice. We do have a choice because you're over the 20% threshold.
Correct, on
So
that
don't tell us
45.
we can't, you know, I
Oh, I wasn't, yeah.
I know
was just
you weren't.
clarifying- Right. I was trying to clarify the difference between the admin 20% and the 45 that are over.
understand that.
Correct.
But you are over the 20%, which means she's still in violation of the code.
So our intent is to comply with the 20% requirement. At some point, we have 2 staff reports for this project. One has one calculation for the required parking ratio. The staff report this week has a different calculation. We'll sort that out with staff. All I'm saying is we intend to abide by the provisions of that ordinance.
Fine.
So I didn't want to misconstrue what we were asking for.
Yeah, if you are willing to provide with the 20%, I'm fine. You know, but that's not what this says. This says okay, then
We'll have to sort that out with staff. I will
Problem.
say, but
as long as you stay within the 20%, I'm fine.
okay.
Well, I was going to bring up the parking too, but I think we've adequately addressed that. So just looking at the applicant paperwork and everything, it looks like a very nice project. The aesthetics of it look very, very good, and I commend you for all of the, I just lost what they're called, the incentives to get to the 20%. I think all the energy efficiency and everything that you bring to the project is really a bonus. So other than, like they've already said about the parking, I don't have any other concerns.
Yeah, the parking is a concern. We've probably painted ourselves into a corner with that ordinance that we have. So think about that in the future. We don't do it again. I don't like the way they look. They're awful flat. That is a very flat top. I'm concerned about the aesthetics of it. It looks like a painted box to me, and I wonder if there's some options for adding some texture and dimension to the rooftop.
Commissioner Robertson, yes, I mean, we are an architectural board. I mean, the P&Z, we can ask them to come back with, if you think that's a sticking point. Staff felt that, the original design versus what the final design, there was a lot more articulation that was shown through the review process. However, if you feel that way, then we can certainly work with the applicant to try to provide a little bit more articulation to the roof. No. Can't hear you. I can hear you, but I don't think anyone else can hear me.
Is it working?
There
There
we
we go. Now it's working. It was working. It says it's on. So I'm wondering, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we're going to live with the 20%. We just need to make sure that staff adheres to that 20%. But I'm kind of curious, when they were talking about transit connected, this is Maricopa. We don't have transit. You have to have a car to get in and out of Maricopa. That
Currently,
doesn't
that's
happen
correct.
any other way.
But we are installing bus stops in preparation for transit moving forward. So looking forward, we will have some transit opportunities, but currently, you are correct.
Right. And even when we have those buses running inside of Maricopa, that's all they're going to do. They're not going to get out.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify that. I'm kind of curious as to whether or not there's going to be permit parking, or is it going to be a free-for-all?
So at this point, we intend to have 312 covered parking spaces, one of which would be assigned to each residential unit. So that stall would have a number, and that a stall would be assigned to a resident in that unit, and that would be their spot. Additional spots within the lot, at this point, we were not intending to have designated to a specific unit, and that would be available on a first-come, first-served basis. And that's how we've operated pretty much all of the apartment properties in our portfolio, and that's been working just fine.
Okay. So where does John's mom, who's handicapped, park?
So per code, there's a minimum required number of units that are accessible, and those units we would hold and provide for preference to any residents who are physically impaired. In addition, there's a code required amount of handicap parking spaces that are van accessible, have ramps and handicap paths to those units as well. So everything is per code on that regard.
So is there a handicap spot near each building?
There's handicap spaces that are near and specifically designed to be near the handicap units. Is there also stalls next to the buildings?
What about when John comes to visit his mother? Or
Hi, I'm David West. I'm from Terrascape, the civil engineer on the project. There are handicapped spaces distributed throughout the site, as well as the handicapped accessible routes throughout the site. So that is something that we worked extensively with staff during the review process in identifying the primary circulation routes and also just making sure that made sense. But yeah, there are handicapped spaces distributed throughout the site and handicapped accessible sidewalks and ramps throughout the site. And that's per code. That's not something that we have a choice about.
Right.
We get to choose how well it works, but we have to provide those.
no, I understand that you have to provide that. I'm just trying to make sure that in this reduction, this 20% reduction, obviously that's going to be a reduction in the number of handicap spots as well. And so when we're taking away that reduction, we're taking away those handicap spots as well.
Again, that's per the discussion had, that's part of the code. But just to give you an idea of, without looking at the total numbers, if we're this many over, that many over, the overall parking ratio for the site is right at about 1.75, which is not unusual for this type of development. It is on the lower end of what you would see for a multifamily development, but that's typical for this income bracket of assisted living development. They're less likely to be the Broadstone up in Phoenix, where the guy's got a one-bedroom apartment and 5 cars and is paying for extra spaces. These are, there's a fair number of one-bedroom units, and so the 1.75 ratio, well, it's a little bit lower than the way the parking numbers work out based on the code without the reduction. It is not unusual within the market.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I understand that we have to live with that 20%. But to Commissioner Irving's point, like he said, I think there might be a disconnect because I'm going to say it probably at least 80% of our school staff would qualify to live there.
I understand that very well. I'm engaged to a school principal. I've been there, and I've also been in an apartment complex that was underparked. So I understand the concerns. I do think that they have paid a lot of attention to this, and they're not trying to shoot below what they think their residents need.
And again, I'm just trying to make it clear that we understand what you're talking about. We understand that we have these restrictions, but the connotation of the fact that we don't understand because it's affordable housing is a misconstrued, because we do get it. We don't make a lot of money in this town, and a lot of our citizens are within the range of affordable housing, and it's just a fact here. So I think I'm just going to leave it right there and say that this is up for action as well.
Thank you.
Commissioners, this is up for action. Is there a motion in any way, shape, or form?
Could we make a stipulation, sorry if I can interject? Can we stipulate that the parking calculation lands on no more than the 20% reduction?
Hope so. That would,
Yes.
why'd you put it in?
Be heard? You can't be heard.
Now it's on, okay. The code suggests 740 parking spaces, and we have a variance of 20% allowed under the sustainability incentives. That leaves us 592 that are required if we go within the 20% rule. And the applicant is suggesting 545. I would like to suggest that we somehow or another come up with 592 spaces.
Commissioner Yocum, yes. So staff will verify. We can put it as a stipulation, as a condition of approval, that it's the 20%. But staff will then verify come next permit submittal before they have a certain amount of time for them to submit a corrected or revised booklet or narrative. But we will ensure that come time for the engineering permits to be pulled, that site plan shows the proper 20%.
Commissioner Frank, do you agree with what I said?
Yes.
I think we just need to go back to Jim's motion.
It's already in there.
Okay.
Jim, you want to revise your motion?
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, I move that we approve as submitted because the 20% you already granted them, so that's academic. So my motion is to approve.
Right.
Second?
All right, there is a motion and a second to go ahead and approve as stated. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Commissioner LaFall?
There's a lot of feedback.
It just
Can you
stopped.
hear me without the feedback now?
Yes, ma'am.
Chairperson Higgins, could you please restate the motion because I was unable to hear all of it?
Sure. The motion and seconded was to approve the staff report as stated with the 20% reduction.
I did not hear that.
The motion was and seconded was to accept the staff report as stated with the reduction of 20%.
To accept.
Okay, try it one more time. To accept the staff report as stated with the reduction in parking at 20%.
Okay.
Are you voting yes or no? Are you voting yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. I think that was a unanimous yes. And I'm just going to state that we need to make sure that the staff reports show the correct information.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Let's move on. ZON 21-04, this is a public hearing, a request by Lincoln Avenue Capital LLC for rezoning of 12 acres from general business CB2 to general mixed use MUG for proposed multifamily development. The site is generally located on the southeast corner of Honeycutt and Continental Road. Discussion and action.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Corin Hooper, Planner 2. Good evening, Chair, as well as the City Council. So this is a request by Lincoln Avenue Capital LLC for rezoning of approximately 12 acres from CB2 to general mixed use for a proposed multifamily development. This is for a single use, and it is generally located on the southeast corner of Honeycutt Road and Continental Road. So within the entitlement process, the existing land is for mixed use, and then this is for the rezoning itself. And then beyond that, we would look at the actual construction of the acres. So this is 12 acres, a combination of the attached parcels. It is currently vacant. The proposed site use is for multi-unit residential. The existing planned use is for mixed use, and it is looking to transfer from general commercial to mixed use general. So the project is seeking to rezone the 12 acres from commercial to mixed use general. This permits the development of multiple units with up to 20 dwelling units per acre within this category. The rezone preserves commercial frontage along Honeycutt and provides for the opportunity to enhance neighborhood commercial. The mixed-use general zoning district fits in with the mixed-use land use designation for the Seven Ranches area, and then this also fits within the general plan and the housing plan. And as you can see, this is the attached site. So as required by Maricopa City Code Chapter 18-140, 150, this project did its due diligence in terms of notifying the public, including a newspaper notification on October 5th. The notification letters were sent around that time. The sign was also posted around that time. And then the neighborhood meeting was on October 20th. And then tonight it is going to planning and zoning. As such, staff recommends approval of ZON 21-04, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. At this time, I have a presentation by the applicant.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioner members. We'll make this short and sweet and get to the point. So my name is Ben Taylor. I'm with Lincoln Avenue Capital, and I'm here today with a number of the design staff and team members bringing some more workforce affordable housing to the state of Arizona and specifically here in Maricopa. My experience, been doing this for about a decade now. We built around 1,200 units in the Denver metro, and that's where I'm based. And Lincoln Avenue Capital itself has been around for about 6 years. So I'm new to the team, and we are in approximately 14 states, have around 17,000 units of affordable housing. We have offices in Santa Monica, California, New York, as well as Denver, and we're actively pursuing a lot of new development and new construction here in the state of Arizona. So let me jump through these. So to summarize, we have around 55 individuals on our team, 10 of those of which are in development. Our company actually doubled in size over the last year, and so we're fully invested in affordable and workforce housing. That's all we do, that's everything we've always done, and so we're excited about our first development here in the state. Just real quick on the project, as you can see, the existing zoning of the CB2, we're proposing to go to MUG or mixed use general. I want to just point out that we were pretty cognizant going through this, trying to minimize the amount of commercial that we take off of Honeycutt. And so as you can see, we have a limited, kind of the minimum amount that we needed to have at least a little bit of frontage on the proposed development, and proposing to rezone a lot more in the back. We wanted to also leave the hard corner at Honeycutt and White and Parker, just to make sure that this complements the proposed future commercial corridor that's going to be on Honeycutt. We'd also like to note that just looking at what the Seven Ranches land use plan was, we think that we conform very well. As you can see, we're kind of in the top right, with the higher density residential as just a generic kind of plan location. Again, we think that it conforms well and will blend in very nicely with the future commercial corridor that I think us in the city and residents hopefully want to see. So why do we want to do this, and why do we want to bring it here, especially to the city of Maricopa? I don't think there's anything I'm not going to tell you that you don't already know. Maricopa has seen a tremendous amount of growth, right? I think one part that has been missing has been the development of commercial retail, restaurants, retail outlets, and we want to help bring more of that to the city. And our project doesn't do that, but it helps get you there. And what I'll say is that to bring more commercial, you need roofs, you need consumers, and you need workers. I think those are two very important parts. The consumer portion seems to be there. We had a sit down with economic development earlier this spring, and they showed us this slide, which really struck out to us, of approximately 370 million of retail leakage that occurs in the city here. That's a staggering number. And so we want to help bring some of that spending back here to the city, and I believe that providing a more diverse housing stock will help bring that retail and commercial, because if you think about it, who's the Fry's Market shop stock, or the aisle stocker, or the Dutch Brothers server? Trying to live where you work has got to be difficult here in Maricopa, given called the average $350,000 starter home. And so being able to bring kind of a diverse housing stock and provide opportunities for workers that this city needs to continue growing and expanding your commercial, retail, restaurants, movie theaters, all of the great things that we're seeing come to the city. We hope that you see our project as helping start that and help the city get to where they want to go. So just wanted to put that out there. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments. We're excited.
Thank you. All right, this is a public hearing, so we will need to open up the public hearing before we get to questions and answers. And it's 6:52, so if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you are more than welcome to approach the podium, please. State your name and your address.
Yes, my name is Mike Lansky. I'm at 19741 North McNeil Court in Maricopa.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having me. I just have some basic questions about the complex itself. As you mentioned earlier, all these apartments are roughly going to be in a 2 to 3 mile area. I mean, doesn't it seem like it's going to be overbuilt with apartments based on the overall space of the city if everything is all in one location in terms of affordable housing for the size of the development? That's one of my points here. Another one I have is the number of actual units that are going to be in the Honeycutt Ranch. They're saying there's going to be 228, I believe, roughly on 12 acres. Now the Copa Flats, they're proposing is 27 acres, and that's roughly 312 units. So it's almost double the size, and it's really only, a little over 100 or roughly 100 more units. I mean, right there, it seems like discrepancy in the amount of space that you're trying to put these number of apartments in. A couple of other things that I have is the traffic issue on Honeycutt. I'm not sure if you live in that area now, but right at the moment, any time of the day, I mean, it seems like it's a drag racing strip right down there. No matter what time of the hour it is, it seems to have gotten worse since the 6 months that we've been here in the city. Also, my concern is the Honeycutt does not, or Continental does not actually go straight across. It has a V shape to it from one side to the other. How is traffic going to be taking a left-hand turn out of the apartments or a left-hand turn into the, onto Continental, into the Homestead subdivision there? To me, that's going to be a major traffic problem due to the possible number of accidents that could be there unless there is going to be a signal on that intersection. And at this point, I don't believe that's is actually on the drawing board. Those are just some of the comments and concerns that I have in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:56. All right, let's put it out there for questions, comments from the commissioners. Commissioner LaFalle, anything?
No questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Bill.
One question on the frontage that's set aside for commercial. What's the overall length, dimension of that, and the depth of that? Would it be applicable for just a convenience store or a strip mall, or big enough for a big box store?
Sorry, Commissioner Robinson, are you talking the portion from White and Parker to our parcel, or the frontage of our proposed rezoning area?
All right, from what I understand, that your parcel that you're seeking the rezoning on has set aside a strip out front for commercial, is that correct?
No, sorry, that was, the strip in front was, we minimized our frontage along Honeycutt as much as possible.
Maintain the other.
To maintain more frontage along Honeycutt for commercial, correct.
Thank you.
Frank.
So, yeah, I'm struggling with calling this mixed use because the use seems pretty monolithic to me. It's just having another apartment complex. There is no mix to it. You know, so it's like just reading out of the information here, mixed use should provide a true combination of uses that interrelate in design function with pedestrian-oriented environment. I just don't see that in this development. So you mentioned in the presentation that you wanted to control the commercial corner as well. Do you have future plans as a part of an overall larger project that would help sell this mixed-use concept in this area?
We do not ourselves. We are purchasing a portion of land to bring the residential, and then that will be complemented by the existing commercial zoning that's already in place there. So that would be up the direction of the current landowner or future developer.
Okay, yes, because I did read in there, it said that you were kind of relying on those other uses in the area to bring that other mix of uses. So it's like you're kind of acknowledging that you're a monolithic use.
Correct, in some regards. So obviously we have no control over other landowners and their development. Our hope, and I can't speak for that landowner, but our hope is that this development will serve as a good starting point for them to bring in future commercial and retail uses with a good base of roofs and workers located in the approximate area.
Okay, all right, well, thanks. Yeah, I just don't see the mixed use here.
Adding on to that, we have seen plans for commercial use in that corner area, as well as the site plan itself maintains connectivity to that, but that's something that we will get to once we discuss the DRP.
Commissioner Irving, sorry.
Yeah, I just have some general questions and a little confusion. I thought, and I've been telling people, that we were going to have a study and they were going to have input about the development of 7 ranches. Am I wrong? Did we not? We sat right here and were asked that. And I know, for instance, the church there, they're all excited about giving input. But now we're hearing that this has already been planned out and they won't have input? So has it been decided without them or not?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, so that 7 Ranches land use plan, as it was displayed earlier, that has been vetted to the commissioners and council. And in that study, it also acknowledged the existing potential entitlements such as this project. So if anything, it has been somewhat presented with information, even this project itself. As you can see, if you look at that previous slide, it did mention the notion of having type high density. Thank you, Abel. There you go. That type of high density, if you've seen that on the eastern quarters area of Continental, that represents the location of what the proposed use itself. And this, again, has been publicly kind of also presented to the public on a type of land use ideas that this whole 7 ranches was considered. So to answer your question, I mean, it was displayed and it was at least given input to that process, and council has at least.
We sat here, Rudy, and I thought we had talked about the possibility of not developing it this way, but doing something for our citizens and turning it into a park. So nobody talked about that?
Yeah, and there's other locations in the 7 ranches, not particular this corner area, but other areas of park connectivity over, I believe, on 7 Ranch Road and Gunsmoke. Not particularly the North Continental Road and Honeycutt Road itself.
Yeah, I guess it just sort of concerns me. I've got a meeting next week with people at the church to talk about that whole area. Mm-hmm. And, you know, nothing against the development. It sounds really good. All I'm saying is I think that's the problem I'm faced with, dealing with people in the city who don't really see us being upfront about various things, who think there's too much development, and we try to tell them it's their land, they can do what they want, but we do want to have a balance. And I just thought that we were going to have a discussion, especially with the people who live there, about the city taking over some of that and buying it and turning the whole. That's what I thought. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I just sort of worried about that because there's a strong sentiment, as you should know, in this city about development, period. And, you know, we had talked, I thought, about maybe a different use for 7 ranches, not this, but, you know. Again, it's got nothing to do with this development. Yeah. I was just unclear because we've got a meeting next week about it. So I'm going to go back and tell them, oh, no, this is what's going to happen.
No, I mean, I guess that's the clarification, Commissioner Irving, that what you're seeing here is what was presented and the land use concept visualization of what that was. It did illustrate the concept of this area having a more high-density area itself. I mean, we did have that publicly with the residents and anyone that attended those meetings of this idea itself. In terms of action implementations from the city side to maybe purchase property, that's something beyond this commission itself, something that the council, whether they go on and consider that as direction from council to look in ways to implement the 7 Ranches plan for potential open space or park or any other uses that idea plan study came about. That's up to council's discretion at this point, unfortunately. But if anything, the land use plan, what you see here, is exactly what was presented, and it did acknowledge this proposal that was being seen tonight as well.
Never mind.
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with that too, because I was under the same impression that he was, that they were going to have a lot more input, and it seems like they're being overshot. Sorry, this is what we're going to do. And then I have to echo what Commissioner Frank was saying, that I don't see a lot of mixed use here. I see a lot of medium and high-density residential happening. Where's the mixed use going?
So again, when we think about the mixed use can be easily defined several different ways in terms of, does that have to be on one single individual lot to have both the residential and the commercial component there? The area surrounding the area that has both medium, high-density residential and also commercial component with, as Corin mentioned, the pedestrian connectivity, so walkability to the uses itself. Mixed use, we've kind of looked at that as various ways to look at ways that meets the intent of a mixed-use development itself. We have to understand that we're not an urbanized area as of yet, but also understand that having a balance of different uses, such as the residential component associated with leaving some retail, restaurants, office on the corner, gives the opportunity to have that connectivity point between the two uses. Doesn't have to be on the same lot, theoretically. It can be within the general area of mixture of uses.
May I? I would be okay with that if those other uses were there, but we have no promise of that. And in fact, that corner they could come to us and develop that as apartments as well. Just given the trend, I think that's where we're going anyway.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm going. It's like, how do we even, I mean, you're showing us something that is not, it's not being presented to us to vote on that. We're asked to be voting on whether or not we want to change the zoning. So we change the zoning and we still don't have any, I'm just struggling with this because I don't see what we are looking for that mixed use to be, for it to be happening.
Well, Madam Chair, Commissioners, the red on the corner is the hard zoning. That is commercial zoning. So that will always come back to this commission for review if that ever comes back where it's not meeting the intent of the general plan. The general plan has this area to have multiple uses. So it's, if the corner comes back with some type of residential and doesn't meet our general plan land use of mixed use, you have every right to deny that request when that comes about. But this request is for rezoning a portion of it for the residential component to meet our general plan of having a mixture of uses. Again, keep in mind that corner is still hard zoned for commercial zoning. Obviously, we don't have a site plan at hand, but we have seen conceptual renderings of how this site will interact with a commercial corner for a possibility for interconnectivity. So it is at least shown, and that's what we're trying to, applicants mentioned that they're trying to preserve minimal impact to the commercial opportunity that's there on the corner of Honeycutt and White and Parker.
I'm struggling with this one, just being honest with you. I'm struggling hard because I don't see that. I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm just going to I'm sorry, Commissioner Yoakum, I bypassed you altogether. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to comment on has been covered pretty well by Commissioners Frank and Irving. I know my understanding of a multiple mixed use is a village core concept where you have commercial, you have employment, you have restaurants, retail, shopping, cultural opportunities. This project will offer a little bit of housing diversity considering what is around in that immediate area. And I do agree that to some extent this proposal will help, adding additional people will help boost resident density to spur retail and commercial. However, when you have mixed use and you're not mixing the use, it just leaves something lacking to me.
Okay. Anybody else? This is action.
May I address that, just because that seems to be
certainly.
So Susan Demmett with Gamage and Burnham on behalf of Lincoln Avenue Capital.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Would you repeat that, please?
Sure, Susan Demmett with Gamage and Burnham on behalf of Lincoln Avenue Capital. So I hear everyone, kind of getting concerned about the fact that this is a single purpose project within an area that's designated for mixed use. There are other examples, and I think whether you like it or not, the Copa Flats project that you just approved a month ago, the zoning and the DRP last night, was similarly situated where that property was in a mixed-use area per your general plan, and they rezoned just a portion of a commercially zoned area to allow that residential component to come in. I think one of your other recent multifamily projects used the same mixed-use general zoning to accomplish this sort of same goal. This area really has monolithic zoning today. It's all commercially zoned along Honeycutt. So the existing zoning isn't necessarily in conformance with the general plan's concept for mixed-use development either. I think in order to allow that mix of uses to happen, it is very likely to happen, project by project at a time. It's unlikely that you're going to have a single developer that's going to come in and do the commercial and the multifamily as a single project. And so this is where Lincoln Avenue has been working closely with the property owner, the underlying property owner who owns the commercial corner that remains. That's their seller. To make sure that this property allows opportunity for that commercial to continue, but introducing that mixed-use component that doesn't exist today. I think that's probably what I would ask you to think about, is you need to allow a little bit of a zoning change to occur to encourage that mix of uses along this corridor. Otherwise, you just have commercial zoning along that entire frontage.
I guess I just have to make a comment, I'm sorry. I think the issue is greater to me than that. We all live here in Maricopa, and the city is really facing the dilemma about the concept of growth. The city council is not going to have the final say, the citizens of Maricopa are. And there's an election next year. And I just think it's very, 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 again, nothing with you guys, I don't blame you for doing what you're doing, is we need to look, and I think we have a responsibility to respond to those citizens about growth in this city. And I just have a problem when I know we were asked to do something and it's not happening. I don't care about the zoning or whatever. Again, the citizens are going to make some decisions. And I just want us to make sure that we are listening and responding to their need. End of comment.
I piggyback on that and saying that I think that the Seven Ranches people weren't heard.
They weren't.
No. Okay, I think I've said my piece as well. Anybody else, any comments? This is an action item as well.
I move to approve.
Had a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second for approval as stated. All those in favor? Sorry? Want more discussion? I'm sorry, one more time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That is 2-4.
Madam Chair, if you could do a roll call, please.
I can definitely do that. Roll call. Commissioner LaFalle, yes or no? Okay, I do apologize. Commissioner LaFalle, yes or no?
It was a no.
Thank you. Commissioner Yoakum, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Frank, yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Irving, yes or no?
No.
And chair would be a no. Thank you. That was tough. All right, next one, PAD 21-07, public hearing, request by Tiffany and Bosco, PA, on behalf of Kernet, Rankin, and Maricopa Hartman, LLLP, to create a sanctuary planned area development, PAD, including the creation of a development land use plan, permitted uses and development standards for the sanctuary, and a proposed mixed-use master plan community. The property is generally located on the northwest corner of Maricopa Casa Grande Highway and North Hartman. Discussion and action, and this is public hearing as well.
Hello. So PAD 21-07, this is for a planned area development parcel of land. It's located at the northeast corner of Hartman Road and Maricopa Casa Grande Highway. As you said before, this request is by Tiffany and Bosco, PA, on behalf of Kernet Rankin and Maricopa Hartman LLP. This is for a PAD, including the development land use plan, permitted uses, and development standards for the sanctuary, a proposed mixed-use master plan community. Step 1, general plan. General plan is supportive of this request. It's master plan community. The step 2 is the rezone. This is where we are currently located in the process. Step 3 would be a preliminary plat followed by a final plat. The acreage, 333 acres. The existing zoning is kind of a mixture. It's a leftover remnant, and it has a mixture of residential, general rural, and commercial CB2 zoning. As previously stated, the proposed zoning is PAD, and the general plan land use is for medium density residential. Site location. So with a PAD, there are several steps that need to be followed to ensure that section 18.140.060 is met, including advertisement for a public hearing was published in the Maricopa Monitor and the Casa Grande Dispatch. Notification letters were sent out to property owners within 600 feet, and the sign was posted on the property. At this time, the report was written. Staff has received no formal comments regarding the request. Also, a neighborhood meeting was held, and the minutes can be found at Exhibit H of the Citizen Participation Report. Staff is going to recommend approval, PAD case number 21-07, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and is amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're going to bring the applicant up here to present the sanctuary and answer any questions you may have for the applicant. Thank you.
Chair Huggins, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Kurt Jones with Tiffany and Bosco. We're at 25 East Camelback Road in Phoenix, 85016. Here tonight representing Kernet Rankin and Maricopa Hartman LLP on their property at 330 acres at the Maricopa Casa Grande Highway and Hartman Road. This is the existing site. Currently, it's from the general plan standpoint, it's designated as an MDR. We're bringing in a planned area development for the property. There's parks and open space along the roadways that we'll incorporate into our plan, as you'll see in a few. Existing zoning, we've got a mixture of general rural, which is that green rectangle along Hartman. Rest of it is a CR3 single family and a small general business. What we're doing is taking the 330 acres, creating a coordinated planned area development on this property and creating a land use plan that is going to have some consistency throughout. This is our conceptual land use plan. What we're proposing to do is propose a minimum of 3 types of single-family land uses, 2 main access points, one off of Hartman, one off of the central location off of the highway. Taking the majority of that general rural property that's zoned currently, creating a mixed-use, high-density residential at the corner, which is an appropriate location right at the highway in Hartman. If you take Hartman North, there will be in front of you in a month or so for another PAD, and there's a whole bunch of PADs up in that northern area up there. So this land use plan just shows you sort of the layout of the parcels, proposing 2 major parks within the proposal, and then with a major study that's going on with regards to drainage in the area. We're taking drainage along the eastern side of our property to the south. From a conceptual land use and open space standpoint, we have individual pocket parks within the subdivisions themselves, the two major parks I described, trails that connect throughout the site. This graphic's going to be changed per staff. That yellow dashed line that goes through the drainage area, it said by others, it's going to be a requirement of the developer to put in. These are just some iterations of the parks that's being proposed. One major park will have a water feature and some play areas, sitting areas, shaded areas for the residents. And then the other major park will be more of a recreational park, play fields, grass, and other sport courts for the residents to utilize. Again, 330 acres, coordinated design theme with walls, entry features, for the project, and creating basically an overall coordinated development proposal with amended development standards for the single family and the mixed uses on the site. Circulation plan, like I said, the two major access points off of Hartman and the highway with internal streets connecting through the plats that you'll see in future subdivision proposals. This is our phasing plan. It might change a little, but basically just shows some main phasing for the site. There's two main phases for our proposal. With that, I'd be happy to answer any question. As staff has noted at our open house, there was no attendees, and we've not received any feedback from anyone on this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, so before we go on to questions and answers, I do need to open it up for public hearing at 7:21. Anybody wishing to address this item, please step forward. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Commissioner LaFalle, anything?
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Yocum.
Two comments. One on drainage. Wood Patel was preparing a regional flood plan, and we have to follow through on it. And also, the presence of volatile organic compounds. I'm not too familiar with that process or what it involves, but I understand that we have a study and a plan in place to address that issue.
Okay, Commissioner Irving.
No question.
Frank?
I read in the applicant information that they're requesting a waiver of the retention requirement to just have first flush for the basins, retention basins. And that kind of goes contrary to the drainage report, which is requiring the typical 100-year 2-hour. So I'd like to understand a little bit more about that, or make that in order to grant that waiver. Personally, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't know if we can make that a stipulation that we stick to the recommendation in the drainage report.
Chair and Commissioner Frank, Colonel Rankin here will address that question.
Chair, Commissioners.
Please state your name.
Colonel Rankin, owner of the property. We have been going through some iterations of getting the redundancy line back and forth, and that's why we have that lake that's there. I'm not exactly sure this is more of an engineering question than it is for myself, but it was something that had to do in lines with that, but I'm happy to put a stipulation in there that regards to that. But I believe it had to do with the redundancy line from EPCOR bringing the water back. So,
yeah, I haven't heard of that requirement typically being allowed here within the city, or I know other parts of the state, up in Phoenix and whatnot, they allow such things. But I think if we go with that stipulation, I'm okay.
Okay.
No other questions?
Commissioner Bill?
Yes, I'd like to pick up on the VOC issue. I'm very familiar with this. I was in that business for a while. I've conducted multiple phase 1 and phase 2 studies as well as remediation of soil and groundwater. So you said that in your information that a detailed project site history was concluded. It doesn't say what you found other than that you found the VOCs. VOCs are flammable vapors given off by either hydrocarbons or other flammable liquids that got into the ground somehow. Either a spill, if this was an agricultural property in the past, which I'm kind of assuming, back in the day they used diesel fuel to control dust on the roads, I know, or to control weeds along the fence line. There's also a hydrocarbon pipeline that runs directly in front of that project of Kinder Morgan. It's a petroleum liquid pipeline that they batch either diesel fuel, gasoline, or jet fuel through. They batch it. I'm familiar with their operation. So I wonder if any consideration was given of a leak at that pipeline or what the source of these VOCs are. Not that they can't be cleaned up. I've cleaned up dozens of them. I know how it's done. But I am concerned about the long-term impact if there is an existing leak that maybe you don't even know about along that Kinder Morgan pipeline that eventually is going to get to our groundwater. And that if a phase 2 is in the plan, I don't see it stated here. It talks about some remediation, which is probably air sparging, I would imagine, is what you're thinking about, air sparge the soil to remove the VOCs. But to me, that doesn't get to the source of the VOCs. There may be more. It may be coming from off-site. So I'm interested in how serious you're taking it. I'd like to know if groundwater will be sampled at whatever depth that may be to determine whether there is infiltration into our groundwater and what the overall direction that you're looking at to solve that.
So thank you for the questions. The point of the contamination, if I'm not sure how long you guys have been here in the city, but at one point there was a rather large amount of tires that was on this site. And back in the day, those tires lit on fire. I think it was up to like 1 million tires. And so when I bought the property, we went through a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3 on this site with remediation from all the, where we believed that it was contaminated. I wouldn't have personally bought the site if it had anything that I didn't believe was able to be removed, and that's what a phase 3 was supposedly what it did remove. So it's not from the pipeline up front. It was that rather large fire that happened there back in the day.
Okay, so just so I understand, some remediation had taken place as a result of that fire.
Yeah, we've done a phase 1, a phase 2, and the phase 3 did all the remediation.
Did that include groundwater sampling? Do you know? I'm
not sure, but it was a above ground fire. I don't know if it would have gotten to the groundwater, but I'm sure it did. It went pretty deep, and we ended up buying this from a government entity, and they can't sell stuff without being able to say that it was completely clear. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have anything on this one, believe it or not. So this is for discussion and action.
I move approval with the stipulation that Commissioner Frank said.
Madam Chair, if we could get a clarification, can you please restate the stipulation?
Just that the development would adhere to the 100-year 2-hour retention requirement.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. I have been requested to go back to item 21-13 by our famous attorney, so take it away.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we appear to have skipped DRP 2113. I know it was contingent upon the zoning application that was denied, but if you could open up and then pending any
Oh, okay.
appeal, if we could just have this tabled in the event that it does come back to the commission.
Thank you. I just figured since we had denied it that we were going to be pricing them. So basically what they're asking is even though we denied the first one, we still should table DRP 21-13 based on the fact that of that. So Is there, let me go ahead and open this up. So we're going to go ahead and go back to 5.3 DRP 21-13, a request by Lincoln Avenue Capital LLC for review and approval of site plan, landscape, photometric, and elevation plans for 228 residential multifamily units with 9 three-story buildings generally located on the southwest corner of North Honeycutt Road and North Continental Boulevard. Discussion and action.
I move we table.
Second? All right, there is a motion and a second to table this item till further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. See, you keep us legal. Thank you so much. All right, let's go on. 5.5. SUB 21-20, number 2, Red Valley Ranch Co. and Van Loo Consultants Incorporated on behalf of and in conjunction with property owner Crescent Bay Lund Found 1 LLC has submitted the preliminary plat for Red Valley Ranch, approximately 164.3 acre master plan community located on the southwest corner of Farrell Road and Anderson Road. Discussion and action.
Greetings, Madam Chair, Planning and Zoning Commission, Corin Hooper, Planner 2. So this is a request by CVL Consultants on behalf of and in conjunction with the property owner Crescent Bay Land Fund 1 LLC, and they've submitted the preliminary plat for Red Valley Ranch, an approximately 164.3 acre master plan community, and this is generally located on the southwest corner of Farrell and Anderson Road. So this is for the preliminary plat, which is the third step in the 4-step entitlement process. So the site acreage is for 164.34 acres, and the existing zoning is a previously approved pad with a pad amendment that was up for this year. It is the general planned land use is for a master planned community, MPC. The proposed density is 3.31 dwelling units per acre, and the general plan land use for master plan community covers 3 to 10 dwelling units per acre. The allowed density is 3.5 based on that pad. And so the lot sizes associated with this project are 42 and 50 by 120 and 55 by 125. And so this is for 544 lots in total. And so, as I had stated, the subdivision is based on a previously approved pad. The general plan land use is for a master plan community. The applicant has committed to providing open space and amenities. The dwelling units are within the permitted level as specified by both the land use classification and the planned area development. And this has addressed circulation and open spaces as well. And the applicant has submitted and this application will be recommended with the stipulations listed in the staff report. As you can see, this is the site location. It is by the edge of town next to the Volkswagen track, and it is the land use is very similar to surrounding communities, and so it is up for recommendation. Staff recommends the approval of SUB 2120, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. At this time, I would like the applicant to provide a presentation.
Chair and Vice Chair, members of the Commission, for your records, I'm Jordan Rose with Rose Law Group, and thank you for having me tonight. I think all I would add to the presentation is just we listened to your conversation last month, and as a result of that, we added a stipulation with your staff that addresses that. That's stipulation number 10, and I'll just read it into the record. It says, at the time of final submittal, the developer shall be responsible for adhering to subdivision 17.30.060 as it relates to minimum access requirements from at least 2 separate distinct access points. And I think that addresses the very thorough conversation that you had last month. So thank you for that. Yes.
Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you for being clear.
Great. All right, Commissioner LaFall, anything on this one?
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Bill? Frank?
The floodplain identified in the application information says it's Zone X. I don't think that's correct. I believe it's Zone A according to county and city information.
I will verify that and update it in the staff report if necessary, and potentially include measurements as a stipulation.
Shouldn't those zones be called out on the preliminary plat? Usually I see those delineated somehow, and I don't see them delineated or called out.
Yes, they should be called out on the preliminary plat, and I will call those out.
Okay, so it'll take a resubmittal of this sealed plat then to do that, right? Or is that just an administrative, or does that have to come before us as we're approving what's in front of us?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, that could be administrative stipulated after council, or excuse me, after approval is granted tonight. We can make that a condition to be resubmitted before final granted by staff.
Okay, then I'm okay with that then. Please verify that, but that's what I saw on the county site today and the city. Thank you.
Commissioner Irving?
No question.
I have none, believe it or not. Yoakum?
My hats are off to the applicant for getting us another way in and out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this is discussion and action.
I suggest we approve
With the stipulation.
with the stipulation, sorry.
Commissioner Frank?
Stipulation is for staff to verify the flood zone for this property and change the plat if necessary.
Stipulation will be met. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. All right, 5.6, SUB 21-082, Desert Passage Parcel 8. The applicant, I'm going to pass on the name. Thank you. On behalf of KB Homes, Phoenix is requesting 12.1 acres of single-family detached home planned for 64 lots. The site is generally located on the northwest corner of North Smith's Farm Circle and North Alma Road within the Desert Passage subdivision. Discussion and action.
Madam Chair, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Hi again.
Planner 2, Corin Hooper. This is a request by Hewitt Zollers on behalf of KB Homes of Phoenix for 12.1 acres of single-family detached homes planned for 64 lots. This is on the northwest corner of North Smith Farm Circle and North Alma Road. So this is for the preliminary plat once again. Parcel 8 itself is 12 acres. The Smith Farms remainder of the planned area development is considerably larger. This is parcel 512396280. Existing zoning is for single-family residential with planned area development zoning. According to our current plan, it is for public and institutional currently. However, it is all within the original Smith Farms planned area development. For this particular section, this particular parcel, there are 5.33 dwelling units per acre, and the cumulative was 3.8 cumulative dwelling units per acre. I believe it was 3.81. The permitted density for this is 3.5 acres with a lot size of 40 by 120. with the number of lots for the area being 64. So parcel 8 is the one remaining parcel to be developed from the Smith Farms planned area development and would complete the development of the Desert Passage subdivision. Once again, this is 64 units across 12 acres, representing 5.33 units per acre for these 12, bringing the cumulative to 3.81. This fell within 10% of the recommended level. As a result, this was able to be handled administratively. The lot size for these are 40 by 120. And this is the site. Desert Passage is very close and approximate. Staff recommends approval of SUB 21-08, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report, and is amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I would now like to cede the floor to KB Home as they have a presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Commission. I'm Sean Leroy with KB Home, Senior Entitlement Planner, and I'll run through and hopefully with a couple items augment what Corin so eloquently laid out. Let's see if I get this clicker right. There we go. So as he said, his final parcel, parcel 8 in the subdivision, the acreage and parcel were deeded back to KB Home in 2017. Parcel 8, also known as the school site, will be modeled after the existing Juniper community using the same product line, which I'll get to here in a bit. 64 new single-family residents will be constructed. As Corin said, we have a 40-wide lot, and they vary going up to, as far as the depth, to 120 feet. Amenities include a 20 by 20 ramada, pedestrian paths, pet stations, barbecue grill, cornhole set, ADA accessible picnic tables. And I should say as well, we have 5 products, 2 models, I think, throughout the community. And we range in square footage from about 1,431 square feet to 2,177 square feet. And our spread of, single story to 2-story is about 70 to 30. And we're in the process of also preparing our construction and grading plans for submittal. This is a duplicate slide, I apologize. Here's the site as it lays out. And I just would point out you can see the presence of the tracks. The amenities will be on the southeast on tract A. Here's an example of our color palette, swatches, and materials. So I think they well represent the community as it has been planned, and certainly represent, I think, an aspirational aesthetic and something highly desirable. And then here's a general streetscape. You'll see they're the 2-story mock-ups, but gives you an idea of what the finished product will be once built. That's it. I thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Commissioner LaFalle, anything?
No questions.
Commissioner Yoakum?
No questions.
Commissioner Bell? No questions. How about that? I have a couple questions. For me, I guess the thing is, I wanted to make sure that this is falling under the same HOA as the rest of the community, right? It's going to be part of the Desert Passage community?
That's correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so then I guess the other question that I have is, because everybody knows that my big pet peeve is the parking in communities, and I'm not going to pick on you because this is an overall plan that's already been in place, but is it the same street sizes as the rest of the community, or is it going to be smaller?
Can you repeat, please?
Size of the streets in this part, is it the same size as the rest of the community?
I believe it's the same. Ryan, do you?
Hi, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Ryan Rabb with Hewitt Zollers, civil engineer. This parcel will be public streets, so it will meet the City of Maricopa public street standards. Other portions of Desert Passage, some of them are private, some of them are public, but this one will meet city standards.
Right, okay, so then the question would be that this one, which is public, does it match the same size as the rest of them that are public?
Yes, yep.
That answered all my questions, so this is discussion and action.
I'd like to propose approval of sub 21-08.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Rachel. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Sorry, guys. You know my pet peeve is parking. Yeah, but mine goes into the HOA world. No parking on one side of the street, but I didn't want to make them go there this time. Yeah, because it's segregate half of them. Right. All right. 5.7. PRS 21-07, City of Maricopa staff will present a proposal of a major update to the city's multifamily residential design guidelines, discussion only.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, I'm just going to give you guys, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this, but I wanted just to update you on the process. I've recently completed the first draft of the guidelines. So we did the single family residential, passed it through earlier in the year. This is for the multifamily. As you know, we've had a lot of multifamily that's come to the commissioners, and there was a need to join other municipalities in the area, in the valley, that have similar guidelines to help us review on staff level, help you as commissioners also review, and then it also helps the applicant understand what our expectations are coming into a project. So with the first draft is complete. It's going to be sent out tomorrow morning to all of our internal stakeholders, including the commissioners. So you guys will be able to have a good look at that, about 30 days to comment. Give me the comments. The earlier the better, obviously, so I can incorporate them. So design guidelines are, like I said, utilized by larger municipalities and smaller ones during the pre-application and the site plan review process to ensure design and diversity. Also helps keep up with the changing trends in the industry, and we tailor them to our particular area and our particular design needs and things of that nature. As you know, we're not a downtown Phoenix, so we have a little bit of a different design and site design needs and expectations than we would for a municipality like that's larger than our own. So what are the things that we looked at when we were drafting this design guidelines? Well, the first is site design. So how are our buildings orientated on the site? Less parking, and this is from a viewpoint of the public driving by. When you're looking onto a site, you don't really want to just see a bunch of parking lots, and I actually thought the Copa Flats did a pretty good job of internalizing all the parking, so you can't see all the parking, all the cars when you drive by. And then also retention. This is something that's come down from the city manager and from other members of the public, that these big large retention areas that are just either just turf or gravel, for lack of a better word, not the most attractive. So looking at that as well, looking at how the buildings are orientated on the site is important. And then also the buildings themselves, what kind of colors, attractive colors, materials, and architecture. We talked about, with going back to the Copa Flats development, about the articulation of the roof line can be a little bit better. Well, now we have some design guidelines in place that we can use that a little bit more effectively. But in that case, they actually came back with and added about 2 whole new materials to some of those buildings. At first, they were just stucco. So we already have been kind of going back and forth with these developers, trying to get more materials, more different colors, more different massing, things like that. So this will just further help us when we are reviewing and during the pre-application stage, helping these applicants design their product. And then also with the building design, always keeping in the pedestrian experience in mind with both site design and with building design. And then, like I mentioned before, we want to look at retention design and low impact development. Water is a big subject with us. Obviously, we've talked a lot about it. It's a major issue for Maricopa and the valley as a whole moving forward. So providing further incentives and helping developers meet these sustainability incentives through the design of the actual site, keeping water on site as much as possible, using low drought tolerant, low water usage plants, native plants, xeriscaping, things of that nature are going to be included in the design guidelines. Just a quick overview of what's been happening and what is to happen in the future. We had started this project back in August. We presented to P&Z at that time. We've had several meetings with internal staff, with planning staff, to come up with the first draft. The first draft will be circulated, like I said, tomorrow morning. We're going to have a little under 30 days before the next P&Z. I'm sorry, it's going to be 30 days. It's the 6th, so it'll be over 30 days when we come to you guys with the first draft for action and discussion on the 13th of December next month. So some of the entities that'll have a chance to comment on it is we're going to put it on the website for public comment. We're also going to be sharing this with the development community. We're going to be sharing this with police, with fire, with city management, with P&Z, with so a lot of different eyes are going to be on the draft. Get some good feedback, hopefully, and we can incorporate it before the 13th of December. Then on to Mayor City Council, January 18th for final approval. Any questions at this time?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I don't know how deeply we go into any one particular issue, but Commissioner Huggins and several of us here have talked about trees that we would like to see and trees we would not like to see. Mm-hmm. Can we put something into this product that kind of emphasizes that point?
Yes, we already have the approved Maricopa tree palette, so we can reference that or include it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner LaFolle, anything?
Is that for me? Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I have requested, it's been a little while on the signage when there are the postings to see if those signs could be, like the lettering on those signs could be enlarged because it's difficult to read from a street view, even when you're kind of near that sign. Had that been taken into consideration? Because the signs that I've been seeing even lately, they still have that smaller font.
Commissioner LaFalle, I think.
So, yes,
Byron.
I think that's part of our zoning code update. That
Byron.
Byron.
Hold on 1 second. Commissioner LaFalle, I think what you're speaking to should be addressed at the end after this item during the staff presentation, because this is dealing specifically with the multifamily residential design guidelines. Is that, you're asking for staff to look into the updating or the sign size for notification, correct?
So pardon the question, it's difficult to hear because I'm listening on a speaker because this is distorted on the Zoom. So pardon that question, I will withhold it until the appropriate time.
Thank you, Commissioner LaFalle.
Bill?
So you said that we have the approved tree palette or landscape palette. Maybe that should be bolstered some and become a guideline, and some actual research and study go into it to determine what kind of trees we really do want as a city. There's plenty of good documentation for that's around. You know, I don't want to you talk about low water use and everything else using natives. I think that's the way we need to go given the water shortage that we have, as opposed to other things that require more water. So just something to consider. I don't think it has to go in this document, but maybe it can be a separate standalone. And then there's, it reduces the questions that we have as a body, and just kind of makes it just an easier approval process.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Frank, the document actually does exist now, and we have been using it and circulating it to applicants. It's on our website as well, on our planning webpage. It's the approved Maricopa tree palette, and so it is currently available. We have been passing it out to applicants.
But is it
you want
just
to expand upon it?
Is it just a suggestion, or is it a guideline, or?
We use it, it's not in code, but we use it to guide the applicant strongly. We say, here, choose from this if you can, and especially when we see the mesquites and the Palo Verdes on the landscape plans, that's the first thing that I'll pass out to the applicant, say, please pick from this list.
Yeah, but there's a whole different species there's a whole bunch of mesquite trees. Some are good, some are bad. And I don't think we need to eliminate a whole species of tree just because of that.
Okay.
You know, so I think it just needs some further consideration.
Sure.
Like I said, there's lots of good research from ADWR, Flood Control District of Maricopa County, et cetera, that, yeah, I just think since it was brought up, just needs to be looked into.
Okay, noted, thank you.
Commissioner Breen?
No question.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Last item on the agenda, reports from commission and/or staff.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I have two items for tonight. Basically, it's just a heads up, and our next P&Z Commission meeting is December 13th. We have, I don't want to promise, but it should be a lighter agenda item list.
Don't jinx us.
I did reduce it from 8 to 6.
Don't jinx us.
But we do intend to, there's a couple things. Actually, I want to bring up the FY that our zoning code yearly kind of touch-ups. We're going to hitting that presentation on the 13th. Similar format has how Byron is doing the design guidelines. We'll give you a draft look of the proposed changes. You have 30 days in January, from December to January, to come up, at least look at the document, give us some feedback. And Commissioner LaFalle, in terms of the zoning sign itself, that's something you can make a request or comment in terms of the minimum size of the zoning signs in the City of Maricopa zoning code. So that'll be a good avenue to make that comment in there when you see that document on December 13th. Other than that item, and then lastly, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our new planning and zoning manager, Richard Williams. He goes by Rick Williams. Rick comes from us, Peoria, but has a good 15, actually almost like 17 plus years experience of municipal planning experience. So he's going to be taking off the load that I've been dealing with since Kazi's departure as acting manager for the department, but he's going to be go ahead the full planning and zoning manager on our behalf for the Development Services Department. So I want to go ahead and introduce you to Rick Williams. Rick?
Thank you, Rudy. Madam Chair, Commissioners, I just would like to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of your meeting this evening. Today is my first day with the City of Maricopa, and it's kind of been an A to Z kind of day, but you know, I think based on the agenda that we saw this evening is a perfect indicator of the diversity of things that are going on in the City of Maricopa right now. And I can't think of a better place to be with, you know, all this new excitement coming down the road. I mean, you know, multifamily developments, mixed use, a set of design guidelines that will help, you know, foster that development moving forward. That really is neat stuff, and to be able to get in on the ground floor and work that is exciting. And I'm tickled to death to be here with y'all, and look forward to working with you in the future. And with that, being that it's a long evening, I'll say thank you very much and have a good evening.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome to your first day and your first meeting. You sure you want to stay? What does that mean you're going to be doing, Rudy? You're not going to have nothing to do now.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Hey, Commissioner LaFalle, did that answer your question? I want to make sure that you understand that there is an avenue for your question.
It did. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I apologize that you've had such an issue. We will work on trying to make sure you don't have that issue later.
Thank you. It won't be much longer that I won't be in.
Okay, I'm just going to say it hurts on this side as much as it hurts on that side too.
Can I add on that too? So yeah, I'd like to request that the city or somebody fix that. Last month was my first time participating on that end of the call, and is beyond frustrating. We got to bring this into the at least 2021 era here and get a better conference call system. The rest of the world is able to do it. I think we can do just as well or better.
Yeah, I'm just going to say if the HOA can do it, the city can do it. Just saying. Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? If you do, you're in trouble.